Hey, y'all can come out and be in the interview. I'm just gonna say hi to everybody watching. Hello, anyone watching this. Hello, Leafy Concern subscribers. This is unconventional video for us. We're doing an interview today, and today we have Thax Douglas, the poet.
So all you fans that were writing in, fantasizing about what Neil looks like, there you go.
I can think of no better person to show up with than Thax. And typically, see, that's actually a good introduction, because typically when I show up on stage here in Madison, it's always a blessing when you show up too. We were talking earlier about you being kind of an honorary member of the band. Today it's like a similar thing. You know, we're a band today working on this video for Leafy Concern.
How did you come up with that name?
That's a good question. I'm glad that, because Gautam's here. Gautam's actually inside. You'll see him in a second when we do a song. But Gautama, I was inspired to do a YouTube channel by this YouTube channel called Paperbird, who's a great channel. He's this really cool channel where he'll start talking about a book, but then start cutting away to all kinds of other stuff and editing it associatively. So it's like, he's got editing it really associatively and going off on these dreamy tangents, so that the video was gonna just be him being like, oh, I read, like my videos. My videos are like, here's the book, here's what it looks like, here's my thoughts. His videos are like, here's the book, here's my thought, and then like you'll see a waterfall in Norway and it'll be like green screened with like a factory or something, and then like he'll start reading seamlessly like a story that he wrote alongside. Or he has one video where he, instead of talking about the Haruki Murakami and Joseph McElroy books he's supposed to talk about, he basically talks about this, he comes up with this whole are you good?
Yeah, I get fall hay fever.
Okay, got it.
So I get coughing fits until the first frost.
Yeah.
So if I cough during the interview, that's what it is.
Well, all coughs welcome here.
You won't catch anything from me because it's not that kind of coughing.
Just hay fever. Yeah. If you cough, I'll just say hey.
Hey, that's why they call it that. It's a way to get people to talk to you. The cough.
So to kind of cut this story short, I wanted to do something like where it was like something with a book and then another word. So I thought of leaf, like for a leaf of like turning over a new leaf, like a page, and then concern being the other word, and like kind of like a newspaper. Like
I mean it's great.
That's good.
I like that you go out into the woods and the leaves are so
Hey, Yvette's here.
Hi, all.
Come here. We are.
Hello.
What's up?
How are you? How are you doing?
Good.
Are you here for Leafy?
We are currently say hello.
Hello.
Hi everybody, this is Yvette.
Combat naps.
And
She's, I don't know if she's the Paul McCartney or the John Lennon of combat naps.
We've
but
talked
she's
about
one
this.
Oh, okay, you have?
Yeah.
What did you decide?
I'm the John Lennon and you're the Paul McCartney.
Oh, okay.
It's-
Yeah,
yeah.
that's about right.
it's
Yeah.
very clear.
Yeah.
We kind of trade roles. What's up?
I brought some things. Where's Gotama? They're here?
It looks like, I think people are inside. No, Gautama went to pick up. Here's what happened. We got a pizza, and then it had sausage on it, so he called Ian's and was like, this has sausage.
He said this is unacceptable.
And he's getting a free pizza now. Yeah. So he's gonna go pick
There's drivers and parkers, I hear, in life.
Is when you said there are drivers and parkers. Oh, sorry.
No, I'm all right.
Okay.
Thank you.
When I said that?
I saw it as a Thax poem. I saw it as like there are drivers and parkers.
Yeah.
Parkers.
In
Way
life,
on the
but-
right margin.
Sounds like a sitcom to me.
Yeah. Well, I was figuring I might edit out some parts of this where I talk too long, but yeah. So Thax here is a poet.
Well, I thought people love that on YouTube.
Yeah.
You get millions of followers because you just babble every day on YouTube.
Yeah. Honestly, you're right. I don't disagree with you at all. And I think actually I am interested also in trying to upload a video that's the longest video I've ever uploaded.
Oh yeah.
You know, just because that would be interesting too. It'd be another occasion.
Yeah.
Why not pile up the occasions? I to this interview I've brought some things. I brought a couple of the poems. I've got some poems for Combat Naps. I've got Etruscan Eons, recent publication, and I've got The Good Life, 2007 poems.
Well, what I do is I listen to a band's music, write a poem inspired by the music. And the poetic process is simple. I call it letting the talent do the work. Our friend that everybody knows, Jack Kerouac, called it first thought, best thought. You know the whole beat mythology. Ginsberg got it from Kerouac. Kerouac was inspired by a very long letter by Neil Cassidy where he just let it go and was inspired. So, but anyway, so I do that. I think, you know, there's a certain little part in my brain that thinks about how the band makes me feel. I tune into that and just start writing.
Yeah.
And then I read the poem before the band starts, sort of as an introduction. And the ideal is that it works because it's about the band. The people there see the band are presumably fans.
Yeah.
Or
friends
of the band, so it sort of almost becomes a community thing there.
Yeah.
And so that's it. That's the whole process. And so I just do it for a lot of bands.
Yeah.
It's fun to do.
It's you're when you so you think of how the band makes you feel, and I guess the definition of a good band is kind of almost, you know, does it make you feel something? You know, like, does that give you a specific feeling? You know, whatever that is. And so you find bands that give you some feeling, and that's fodder. That kind of gets you started. That's the spark.
Yeah.
And that spark is that kind of when you how do you do it?
It's also about connection too. You know.
In the moment of reciting, you mean?
Just connection with the band.
Yeah.
And being on the same wavelength as a band. Sometimes I'm not sure if I like a band or not, but then the band asks me to read, and then and so there's a connection then. So then I concentrate on what I like about it, the band, and then it just goes on from there.
Have you ever written a poem for a band where you listened to recordings, liked the recordings, and then read for them live and didn't like them live?
No, it's funny. It's never happened.
Well, you love live music.
That's never happened, because usually, unfortunately, a lot of bands are too timid when it comes to the recording process, so the recordings aren't nearly as good. And there have been a couple of cases where, like, there's one band from Nashville, I didn't like even the live stuff online.
Yeah.
But being in the same room with them, they were amazing.
Yeah.
And Tyler Fresneck said the same thing. He said, wow, you know, they didn't seem this good online. What happened?
Yeah.
So that happens sometimes. But yeah, it's not like I thought I like it. That happens very, very rarely.
That's one thing, just off the bat, I like your poems. I like the characters in your poems, the objects in your poems. I like the narratives, the endings, good endings. And I also like the sense of loving live music and the transformations possible that you bring to it. You love it, and so everyone else just kind of loves it more. You know, you make shows better for sure by having lots of experience with what good transformations can happen. A lot of faith in it. You know,
that's true. Yeah.
Poetry's kind of like that too. You go to the page and it's like you have good experiences of I started somewhere. And then I had a second thought, and I used that, you know, went from first thought to second thought. It made a good poem, and you kind of have faith.
Yeah.
My band, Combat Naps, has had the privilege of having these poems written for me. I have 4 of them here. I have number 6, number 8, number 11. Actually, no. I have a copy of It's All You Cowboy, or It's Up to You Cowboy here.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Different poem, you know? One thing that became evident to me is that you know, like a fan of your poems, they're more interested in them as a picture of your mind or just what's in the poem.
Yeah.
But when I do actually look at them, and they are different for each band. Some of them will be more about a feeling of hope or a feeling of waiting or a feeling of obscurity or like an outgoing feeling or something like that.
Yeah.
Like I thought it was interesting, like for instance, like I think Graham Hunt's music is like, it is kind of like a touring the world kind of music. And I have a poem, there's a poem in Etruscan Eons where tourism, like a tourist just shows up.
Yeah.
And I thought that was really cool because that's one case where I get a feeling from the music and the music is kind of like, it's represented. Something I really love about your poems, like I want to talk about, is just like your sense of concreteness in your poems. Like concreteness versus abstraction.
Yeah.
Like I feel like maybe to an inexperienced poet who hasn't written that many, they like consciously think, let me do something concrete or let me do something abstract or something. You just seem to have a good habit of, if you introduce the sun's rays or the sun's corona or something, you already kind of are able to start kind of like a play going where there's the corona and then the particles around it and stuff starts happening between them. It must be very pleasant, like watching that play out when you write your poems.
Yeah. Yeah, I got that from so-called Acmeism.
Acmeism.
Silver Age Russian poetry.
I've seen it mentioned in connection with your poems, but what is, like, can you describe that?
Acmeism. It was basically a reaction to symbolism,
Mm-hmm.
which was kind of murky and abstract.
Mm-hmm.
It was deliberately kept away from the real world.
Yeah.
And Acmeism is about the real world. It still can be very, very surreal, but you're dealing, no matter how surrealist or metaphoric or whatever you are in your poem,
Mm-hmm.
you're dealing with really concrete things. So the example used in one of my poems, if you have a goose
Mm-hmm.
skating along the rim of a wine glass
Okay.
to create glass harmonica sounds, and the wine glass becomes a whirlpool.
Mm-hmm.
That's an image from one of my poems. That's a real thing. It's a real goose.
Yeah.
A real wine glass, despite how surreal it all is, it's all real.
Yeah.
And whether that reality is enough in itself, or is a symbol for something, or a metaphor for something, or a step to something else, that's but it's the reality of the concrete world. So
I have a real habit of writing down dreams.
yeah.
And I have now like a 7-year habit of writing down every dream I remember. And this idea of the things being real.
Yeah.
But they're just bits of text. And they're just like, if I mention a window, you know, in that it's like, it's from my dream, someone could say. But I really, that's an experience. When you're having a dream of something, you can't help but acknowledge it as real. And I guess an Acmeist would want people to read the poems as though they're having the dream of the poem.
Yeah, exactly.
And it really had that sense of kind of forgetting the fact that it could ever possibly not be real. That it couldn't actually be a goose there. And that there couldn't actually be a whirlpool there that's threatening and turning around and churning things up and sucking things in and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I don't really know how whirlpools, if they suck things down probably. Or maybe they just spin in a circle. Yeah. Not really like up or down.
Yeah, I think it might have to do with which way it spins or something like that. Because I know a water spout sucks things up, but a whirlpool definitely sucks things in.
Mm-hmm. Hey everybody, you've been watching the first ever Leafy Concern interview. The first ever one. We're well underway. Each band's feeling is unique and it feels concrete because I've seen some consistency to it. And then also I want to talk about your concreteness. Thank you for explaining some a bit about Acmeism and how it's what's real there.
I had a dream Probably the best Acmeist poet is named Ashok Mandelstam.
Really? That's an Acmeist poet?
Yeah.
I wondered why he's so good. He's so excellent.
Yeah.
And he's never explaining things too much. And his poems are always accessible. They're very vivid experiences.
Yeah.
That's really cool. That's very cool. Because I've wondered why he's so great. But what were you gonna say about?
So probably the classic poets that I most identify with or inspired by, or most like, or whatever, is Mandelstam and Dickinson. So, yeah.
Dickinson is interesting. Like Dickinson interacted with the confines of her page, and she would write on, famously write on the envelopes, but wherever she wrote, like the space limitation was part of the form.
Right.
And this is very true of your poems. I want to talk about what you get from Dickinson, and I also want to talk about, before we get to Dickinson, before I forget, the other poet I always think of composing in units of the page or the notebook is Gertrude Stein. Because I know that she would think in the unit of the page. Did you have you what do you think of with as regards Gertrude Stein?
I haven't read much Stein, so I can't really say anything about that.
It's interesting. She has this series of poems, The Tender Buttons, which are about objects, and they're titled. And your poems are very different. Her poems are more like, I wouldn't recommend them to a listener in the same way I would recommend your poems. They're more kind of masturbatory and kind of just like for fun, like for words' sake. And I find that kind of valuable sometimes. Sometimes I need to read her. Everybody roasts me in the comments. Nobody roasts me in the comments. Everyone's nice in the comments.
Okay.
Right? That's why I do this. Because it's so nice. Like, I guarantee you someone's going to say something nice when I upload this.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah. Feel free to be evil in a social media sort of way.
Actually, yeah. Because then it'd be cool maybe if somebody could be evil and be like the devil on the shoulder, there could be an angel on the shoulder, and then maybe the dialogue could multiply. I want to talk about Dickinson more if you don't gotta dash off. With as regards Dickinson, I memorized an Emily Dickinson poem in high school as my introduction to her, and it was one about the tippler leaning against a lamppost, the bee and the foxglove's door. It's about basically bees getting drunk on pollen stuff, and it being kind of this glorious sight of drunkenness. I think you and Emily Dickinson, both poets, contest. Tell me if I'm wrong, but you guys are poets who you'll write about the earth. You're conscious of the heavens, of stars, the sun, the moon, the atmosphere. You're not just looking at the thing. You're looking at it, and there's also stars above it. Do you think Emily Dickinson made you think about the heavens more, or changed the way you think about the heavens? And
maybe it's like you said, the existential moment of the blank page there in front of you. So that's why.
Kind of a heaven, or a atmosphere, or a sky.
But yeah, obviously she was pretty metaphysical or whatever. She thought about everything that she could do. No, for me, it's not only the stars in the heaven, but all the stuff we've got from science since 1886. So for me, it doesn't just include the stars in the heaven; it includes all the little microbial soap operas that go on inside of us, like the so-called tachycards.
Yeah, tachycardia.
No, they're extremely microscopic, tiny animals, like there are millions or billions inside of us. But due to the electron microscope, you can see them, and they look like men inside a weird little animal suit or something.
Wow!
It looks like a little weird animal, but I mean they're extremely small.
That's cool. Yeah. There's just way more larger context now.
So there's
larger context inside of us.
They're going through their things inside of us,
Mm-hmm.
just the way that we're going through our things inside of the whole universe.
Mm-hmm.
So we're aware of both. You know, when Dickinson was writing, there was only a hint of that going on.
Mm-hmm.
No, you know, it was all pre-Einstein and pre-everything else. But you know, definitely she had the poetic intuition about it all. Definitely.
Well, my question is, have you ever written any rhyming? Did you ever go through a period of writing rhyming poetry, you know, recently or maybe prior to 1997 when you started doing the readings at shows?
Not, not really. You know, it's fun stuff. You know, I don't have it anymore, but I used to write limericks in high school.
Cool. Do you have access to those limericks? Have you saved any? Do you remember any?
Yeah, I remember them, but you know, they're not that very great or something like that.
Have you ever read the Penguin Book of Limericks?
No, it sounds like fun though.
It's cool. I'm always thrilled by how limericks are always more like sexual than I remember. I'll look in a book and I'll be like, oh, like I'll go to the limericks and they'll just be like really like shocking.
That's a little weird. Yeah, I don't know. There's no real reason for that to be that way, but it always is.
It always is.
Yeah.
What's funny is that like one time I got a book from Peter Popper Press that had limericks, and they were all like, you know, body. You know, I remember I got a nice. I could show you. They got this nice little red limerick book. I've probably shown it on the channel, haven't I? I like asking stuff like they're there.
No, I like Peter Popper Press though.
Mm-hmm.
They're just nice to look at.
They really are. They have those 50s illustrations, kind of. Or do they ever have like a different illustration style?
You know, yeah, they're really 50s. The 50 styles illustrations, and they just look really good. It's sort of an ideal of like what a book should look like. I've always liked that. That's why, like, I asked Shannon. That's his name. I always forget his name. I asked Shannon to do the drawings on the pages like that. I've always liked that. The idea of the little illustrations that are just decorative, that don't really mean anything. Hey, you got it.
I have more pictures. Oh.
Beautiful.
Hey.
Sorry for interrupting the chat.
We were just talking about Peter Popper Press that did and illustrations in poetry books. Have you ever done poems to respond to photographs? Ever done a book where your poems are paired with photographs?
No. I tried doing poetry portraits for a while of people, and when I was searching for, you know, my earliest stuff was all the stuff like on the Albini record, which was like self-obsessed, mean, bitter, hateful stuff. It was a dead end. So to get involved with the world, that's why I started with people. And that kind of got stale, and then I hit on the band thing.
Yeah.
And that's never gotten stale, so that's why I keep doing it.
Yeah, you're always dealing with a subject that's always changing, because people's music, they're always making it new. Always, the body of work is always changing. You said my stuff was kind of was prog, and then sort of started getting different.
Yeah, I couldn't, you know. You hear about stuff like Picasso, like obsessing about whoever his mistress at the time.
Yeah.
Stuff like that. You could do that maybe with a person, but I don't know. It would be boring to do 13 Neil Jockman poems for me. Even if I was in love with you, it would be, you know, I wouldn't want to do it in poems. It would be too private for me.
Yeah.
My private obsessions, I wouldn't want to write poems about you.
Do you think every poem is basically a performance, like a gig? You know?
Yeah, it's kind of like art about art. So that's kind of the nice thing about it.
Yeah, art about art. You know, it's infinite or whatever.
The Acmeist called it.
Kind of lost my train of thought.
The Acmeist called it white on white.
Okay.
What that means is white. What they mean by whiteness is an abstraction. So white on white is an abstraction about an abstraction, or even a further abstraction of an abstraction. So.
Did you know about Mandelstam when you were back in your kind of more kind of what you say, self-obsessed poetry things?
Yeah, I did.
What poets were you reading then?
I got into Russian stuff. In the 90s, there was a large anthology called Silver and Steel that Yevgeny Yevtushenko, of all people, put together of 20th century Russian poetry.
Okay.
And so that's what sort of got me into it.
Where'd you pick up that book?
It was a library book. I mean, it was published by someone major, so it was easy to find.
What's your favorite library in town? Like, what's your favorite branch of the library in town?
I don't live in town.
Got
it. I live in Broadhead,
okay.
which is an hour south of here, and there is a link cat system. That means all the books in Madison and a big chunk of south central Wisconsin is available to me.
I do the same thing. I put on hold sometimes, and they'll just deliver them there. It's kind of amazing.
I'm well known at the library. They have a shelf just for me.
Yeah.
And it's because it's books and movies, and so.
Yeah. How many movies you watch a week? What's your movie watching appetite?
I can watch a good many in 1 week.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes I binge and I have like 4 in a night or something.
Do you seek out? First of all, do you like horror movies? If so, what are some favorite horror films?
I do like horror movies. You gotta watch out though.
Okay.
I was disappointed by the last one I saw.
Okay.
Called The Front Room, which didn't live up to its trailer.
The Front Room.
Yeah.
Wait, I've seen trailers for it.
Yeah, the trailer looks great, but
very scary faces and so on.
It doesn't deliver. It's well acted. It's worth watching for the performances, but the story falls flat. It doesn't deliver.
Got it.
But other movies, the trailers seem blah, like Night Swim had a really blah trailer. And but then the movie was great. I really loved it. And there are a few.
What was that one called again? The Water.
Night Swim.
Night Swim.
It was like Blumhouse is usually pretty good.
Blumhouse.
You won't, it won't be a total waste to see a Blumhouse movie.
What's their most famous picture? I might have seen it.
Oh God,
I was very scared by Hereditary.
Hereditary. Yeah.
That was good. I kind of
Yeah, it's really weird.
It's a hard genre.
It's actually a frightening moment.
Mm-hmm.
We'll do a spoiler alert. The moment where you see the kid turn around and he has the evil face, like he's an evil old face, just for a really brief second.
Wait, which one?
In Hereditary.
When he turns around and has the evil old face.
That's about the kid, right?
It's about the tragedy with the... No, I think you're thinking of a different movie. Maybe. Well, what you're describing sounds funny. If I just... Or not funny. Like, for some reason in my head, it's something wrong with me socially, where I say funny, when I'm talking, when people are talking about kind of bad things. So, like, occasionally I'll let slip funny.
You know about gallows humor and stuff, right?
Do you seek out, like, world cinema? Like, are you ever kind of like, I want to watch a Polish movie?
I do. That's why I thought I was so sophisticated. Until I actually went to, like, Germany and not liking having to, not knowing the language.
When you were in Germany, did you read poems for bands? And if so, did you read them in English or German?
I did it in English because, everyone all over the world has to learn English in school, even in North Korea.
Yeah.
So everyone knows some English, and
that's a great advantage of getting to write in it, I guess.
So it helps. So actually, no, I used to read for a band called Stereo Total, and they sing in German, English, and French. Their reputation here is a very witty, cosmopolitan, like chamber pop band. I was in Berlin 4 days, and by sheer dumb luck, 2 of those days they were playing.
Yeah.
So I went to the venue. They remembered me, and I read those 2 nights. But in Berlin, their hometown, they're like a rowdy party band.
Interesting.
So people were moshing and crowd surfing to them and stuff like that. And yeah, it was wonderful, and especially the second night, people liked it.
The second night, like they had the same fans there, and you got up again to read.
Yeah.
And do you think do you have a memory of how the experience of writing a poem for them was after having seen one mosh live experience totally contrary to your experience, to their reputation
I think
as a band?
the second night was based on the show of the first night, so
Got it.
yeah, that was definitely a little different. So maybe they seemed puzzled the first night because it was based on all the very different shows I saw in the States.
What's interesting is that Combat Naps, I want to have it both ways and kind of record music in whatever style, and then when we play, kind of play loud and weird and crazy.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so from the
I'm always amazed, like, you know, the most popular band ever, the Beatles, just did whatever they wanted.
Yeah.
But people just ignore that.
Yeah.
And they, our band is like this. We have to do this very narrow range of stuff because that's who we are. You know.
Yeah. I couldn't agree more about doing whatever, because it's supposed to be you're kind of blown on the wind, and it's like all you can really muster is a first reaction thought to what's in front of you, or kind of what you have available, and you can't change that. So, and sometimes that reaction will be different from your last reaction, and you got to accept it. I think you can't really kind of say, well, that's not a reaction in keeping with us. But genre is very important with bands, you know, like with finding an audience. I think. Dang, I think we were talking about something. Oh yeah, when did you go to Germany?
Oh, that was 8 years ago.
8 years ago, it's 2016. Is there any place in Europe you haven't been?
You know, I'm not a big traveler. I've always been poor. This only happened was because the way it works with disability is you apply, it takes like 3 years, and if you're accepted, they give you retroactively to when you applied.
Mm-hmm.
So I had a big chunk of money.
Mm-hmm.
And I realized if I don't go, I was living with my dad, so I thought if I don't go to Europe now, I'll never go. That's why. And initially, I was going to go all over Europe.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't even going to go to England. But that was my only time, basically, in Europe.
Mm-hmm.
I spent 10 days in Ireland with my parents in '94.
Okay.
But, you know, I spent all my money getting there, so I didn't have money to do anything.
Yeah.
I just stayed with my parents in a cottage for 10 days.
Okay.
But, I mean, it was really nice.
That's
but,
cool.
You know, but this was a little different. But just when I was about to go to Estonia, a friend, an old show buddy of mine from Chicago years,
Mm-hmm.
messaged me on Facebook and said that he happened to have a spare room. I could stay with him for a while.
In Estonia?
In London.
In London?
Yeah, but it was funny. It happened just as I was about to buy the ticket to Estonia.
Interesting.
So it was great timing. So instead I went to England and I stayed 6 weeks in London and I did my thing there every night. I went to Songkick, as it was called.
Songkick. I feel like I've heard that name.
You know, these things changed, but it said every show that was in London.
Mm-hmm. Oh, cool.
So I listened to stuff, and whatever show I liked the best, I just did my thing. I went and asked if I could read.
Yeah.
And it's funny. It's a great way, like, to make friends. You know, I made a lot of friends.
Yeah.
You know.
It's cool. It's cool. I mean, you're like the main poet I know in Madison. I'm very lucky that you read at shows, because thanks to that, I know a poet I like in town. You know?
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, unfortunately, I stopped going. You know, before the music scene, I was very into the poetry scene in Chicago.
Mm-hmm.
There was an open mic circuit. There was a different open mic somewhere every night.
In the 90s?
Yeah, 80s and 90s.
80s and 90s.
Yeah, and there were like, you know, there were friends, you saw them every night.
Yeah.
And, you know, they were really eccentric. It was fun. Unfortunately, the so-called slam kind of ruined it a little bit.
Yeah.
because it got.
I could see that.
I know exactly what happened with the slam. A woman named Patricia Smith wrote poems about not so much social issues but news stories. But she did poems very well.
Okay.
And
yeah.
She.
I'm not familiar, but that kind of sounds good.
She does, you know. She did her certain black artists are very good at being dramatic.
Yeah.
Projecting really well, having a strong voice. So she did that for these poems about the news items, and she always won the slam.
Yeah.
And so, unfortunately, everyone started imitating her.
Yeah.
And that became the slam style, and then it got really boring. You know?
That's like you could substitute any number of styles. That's a common dynamic, but it's a shame if it's a scene where you're seeing lots of variety, and then you're seeing the variety start to kind of
that's basically what happened.
Shrivel up a little bit.
And I stopped going to open mics because every few years I'd go to an open mic just to see if anything's changed. It just gotten worse.
Yeah.
I know I went to one, and I could tell exactly what the poetry was going to be like just by looking at the person.
Yeah.
That was really, really disappointing to me.
That's disappointing.
That it's that cliched. I mean, it wasn't like that. When I started in the 80s and early 90s, you know, it was a wonderful array of weird, eccentric, exciting characters.
You get it in music. In music, people, I think, dress for shows in a way deliberately to throw off and the people will sound. It's very difficult to tell with bands how they'll sound based on how they look.
Yeah, that's actually true.
Unless they're dressed like super metal or something, then you'd be like, okay, they're probably going to be like metal-ish.
Well, in the early days, what turned me off the punk rock in the early days was conformist in terms of dress.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone wore those black leather jackets. I hated those black leather jackets so much. It was a big thing.
Mm-hmm.
And
I saw some black leather jackets at the Goodwill the other day, and I thought I might get one.
Well, some people wear them now.
Yeah.
But it's just one style out of many.
Yeah.
It wasn't like, you know, but like in the late 70s, early 80s, it's like everyone who was into punk rock wore it. It was a uniform.
It's almost kind of a thing of like if your genre is supposed to be non-conformist or kind of like rebellious.
Yeah, that was the thing.
It's just most susceptible to conformity because it's like it's just blind to that you could be
non-conformist in the same way.
Yeah.
It was kind of. But, you know, unfortunately, I let that blind me to the variety of the music.
Yeah.
So that's my bad there. But I discovered it on my own. And then I think one reason why indie rock is flourishing now in the 20s is that for a long time the Nirvana success had a bad effect on indie rock.
What would you generally think of it as being kind of like a neutral thing where like money got thrown all over the place and then like things that were good were allowed to bloom and then things that were bad were also kind of, it was just a series of bright colors. What would you think of kind of as the like bad effect that we
the bad effect? It's similarly like with the poetry open mics and with alternative stuff. There was a feeling like you're never going to be successful doing this.
Mm-hmm.
So you're doing it for its own sake. You're doing it for each other.
Yeah.
If you manage to barely make a living, that's really great.
Yeah.
But no one expected to be a rock star, 70s style rock star.
Okay.
In the alternative world. And
I see where this is going.
Yeah, so after Nirvana, everybody in the back of their head thought maybe they'll be the next Nirvana. It was just there. Like everyone who just put out a song on SoundCloud or whatever, it was in the back of their brain.
Yeah.
There could be a next Nirvana. And that kind of kept going all the way until the lockdowns and everything. That was the historical moment when things changed.
Yeah.
So now in the post-lockdown era, we're back to that, like nobody thinks Nirvana is on the same level with Led Zeppelin. They don't even think in those terms anymore. Like,
yeah.
I don't think people think of Nirvana as one of them really necessarily, you know. So
there is. I think you're right of a leveling of everything. Yeah.
But you know,
I wonder
like,
how
if,
the pandemic.
if Combat Nap sold 50 million records, so the same thing would probably happen though. Out of nowhere, you became a world phenomenon. People would start, unfortunately, that seems the way things go.
And then there would just have to be a reset time where people say nothing good's gonna happen, so let's just enjoy our stuff.
Or you're just doing it, success meant something different. It didn't mean selling 50 million records. It meant that you're somehow able to make a living. Like you tour around and enough people go to see you.
Yeah.
That you can, and enough people buy your records and your merch, which I guess is the biggest thing. That's extremely important today. Is that enough that you can keep doing it?
Yeah.
And make a living. It's a small living, but that's considered success once again.
Yeah.
So
I consider that success. Any relationship in art where I feel like I have a friend and we share art and we kind of have a mutual respect and we're sharing it and it kind of just inspiring each other to make stuff, to share it just in a conversation. I think that is kind of like a successful thing. Anytime that can be sustained.
Yeah.
Anytime, and I think it'd be good if it were more steady or something, but anytime I have a friend and we like email poems back and forth for like a week straight or something, it feels like this really lovely, successful thing where I'm like, oh yeah, we've got our own little thing going.
Yeah, totally.
It doesn't have anything to do with my, our overall artistic projects or anything. It's just kind of like,
we're going back and forth. We're taking steps forward. I love that feeling.
That might be connected to the just good enough to tour thing. Just kind of being able to keep doing it. Being able to keep doing it. I mean, when a poet happens on something, like when you found shows, it's a great feeling because you're like, oh yeah, like this is a fountain. I can keep doing this. Like my poems will keep coming.
Yeah.
And when that happened, you must have been like really, really excited.
I was very, very happy. Even though there were some very, very unpleasant things in Chicago that was working against me, I didn't really pay attention to it because I was so excited by the process of doing what I was doing.
That's awesome. That's all anybody wants.
Yeah.
That's all any of the indie.
That's what anyone will tell you.
Yeah, that's what they'll tell you.
No matter what the world, if the worldly successful ones will tell you that as well.
Yeah.
For the most part. So yeah, that is what's most important about art and being an artist is aesthetic satisfaction.
Yes.
That's primary above everything else, even making a living.
Yeah. Wow, that's a great note to pause on.
Are you going to do the hairy
Hippie Johnny?
hippie?
Yeah, I want to do that.
Wait, is it hippie drawing?
Hippie Johnny.
Oh, hippie.
It's just
Johnny.
it's the character from
the
Modern Lovers song.
Oh, okay.
So
I thought it was an underground comics thing or something.
No, that's cool though. Hippie drawing. You talk about things that give you a sense that you can keep on making your songs. The fact that there's any image that you can repurpose as an album cover gives you a sense that you can make more songs. And so the sense that there's a hippie drawing.
Do you spell it with a Y or I-E?
I-E. Hippie with a I-E, Johnny with a Y.
Oh, okay. Hippie Johnny. Okay, cool.
Hippie Johnny, yeah.
So what you got to do? I'll direct you here. You should film your performance, and then you should film me writing the poem.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
It. Yeah.
Let's do that. All right. Can you introduce yourself?
I'm Gautama.
You just kind of solo every time.
Yeah.
So hello. Are you recording?
I'm recording.
Hippie Johnny here. We're gonna play a song. Thax is gonna listen, and we're gonna demonstrate the poem, how these poems get made.
It's cold in this house, and I ain't going out to chop wood. I can't go to sleep, and my kids think I'm up to no good.
Yeah.
Wait, sorry, can you start over?
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
So we performed in Thax Heard, but Thax's poems are introductions to shows, introductions to performances. So what's going to happen is Thax's poem is going to precede a new performance that will happen later.
Okay.
And you probably got duck soup there.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
that's all.
Okay.
I imagine.
That's they have the best soup.
Did you get it there too?
Mhm.
On this day? Probably that one too.
Yeah, I always get duck soup when I'm there.
Actually, you're kind of writing often at the Chen's Dumpling House.
I did, especially that time. I don't do it as much as I used to.
I just want a Parthenon. A Parthenon?
Parthenon Gyros, that's the other place I go to. So. And the place next to Cardinal Bar is really good.
Do you remember the first concert you did at Poem?
Hooton.
Yeah, I do.
It's good.
It was a band from Oak Park, Illinois called Amber Bug.
Amber Bog?
Yeah.
What kind of music?
Just like normal music.
Yeah, checks out.
It was
Hell
like,
yes.
I was gonna start doing it in '94, but I had a personal crisis, so I didn't do it that night. And I waited 2.5 years to start doing it again.
Okay.
And then I slowly started doing it after that.
Okay.
It was an experiment. I didn't know.
Yeah. But you'd been writing poems before that?
Yeah, I've been writing seriously. I've been writing for like 10 years.
Okay.
And before that, I scribbled a lot too, which I don't know. I don't think. Who knows?
Yeah.
It's all gone. I don't even remember what it would be like.
Why is it gone?
I did a lot of stuff like you did too, like in high school. But after I had one serious suicide attempt, and the doctor thought it was a good idea to get rid of everything
Really?
I ever did.
Wow.
He's kind of old school. I don't think they would recommend that nowadays.
No, they totally wouldn't.
He told my mom, yeah, just throw everything out that reminded him of high school. So I had a bunch of tapes and writings and stuff, and she threw it all out.
Would you want to see it again?
I can't imagine. I don't remember it being good. So if there's some hidden genius there, I even when I was doing it, I knew it wasn't very good. I just liked doing it. I didn't know how to play piano, but I would find a piano somewhere and just bang around on it and tape it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Graham just sent me the link to your electronic album from like 2007.
Oh wow.
Aba 440.
Yeah.
Yeah, that finally came out. That I'm really happy with.
Yeah.
I'm really happy with that record.
I think it sounds awesome.
Yeah, I think it sounds awesome. Thank you.
Recognition.
Because the
right?
venue always says, like in ads, formerly this, and this. And it gets
So
too
long.
annoying, yeah.
Sisters.
I mean, it works for early stage minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah, you gotta play it like 2 minutes
And then cut it.
and then.
Yeah. Are you gonna sing?
Yeah. So we're gonna go write the poem.
So have you guys done any shows here in town?
Hippie Johnny?
Yeah.
In 2019 we did
You did? Okay.
2 or 3 shows. One at Tip Top Tavern,
Oh wow.
one at the Wisco, and I think that actually is it.
How come you do so few? Just because it's too much of a...
Gautama lives in New York City.
Oh, he lives in New York. Okay. Does he have a band there?
He plays... No, he doesn't.
Oh, okay. That's a little surprising.
It's strange. He I would think he would have several bands, be playing a lot, because he's a very gifted songwriter.
Yeah, I'll have a couple of questions for him. I wonder if he ever played Living Room there in New York.
It's probably a place where maybe he would enjoy going to a show. He's probably been to a show.
It's a folk club.
Yeah.
I'll ask him about. I think it closed down.
Oh.
Yeah. Is it the square room or just square room?
The square room.
The square room. Okay, that's it. I'll make a copy. I normally make a copy for the band. I'll make 2 copies tonight. One for you and one for Gautama.
Thank you.
And then
I've never actually seen you copy one out.
that's my normal thing. I do it right away and give it to the band right away. Otherwise, I might forget.
I'm always grateful for it.
Yeah. This will be your copy. This will be Johnny's here. And I'll make a copy for myself. Then when I go home, I'll put a copy on my Facebook page. But I have to do something. I have to be more proactive.
Yeah.
About things like get on Patreon and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Or get a website
that
all the poems are or something like that.
A website with all the poems would be really cool. You could click on a band. You could type in a band, you know?
Yeah.
Go to every poem.
And you know, at least some people, you'd have a look, and if people wanted a handmade copy of it mailed to them, I could charge for it and stuff like that.
That would be excellent.
I've never been proactive about making a career of this at all, and I always hoped somebody else would do the work, but no one ever did anything, so I just have to do it myself. Unfortunately, I'm one of those people where, like, doing the work of doing the poems, I'm good at that.
Yeah.
I'm not really good at anything else.
I've got a similar thing. I'm glad that this video is something we can work on together.
Yeah.
That's like something I know how to do. It's kind of like I make these videos, and it's kind of like it's just something I do prolifically, like make a poem or something, and You know,
Why not?
I wish I were someone who, you know, it's the dream is to meet somebody who makes websites and shop fronts and helps poets, you know, prolifically. Like that's the poem for them.
Yeah, I think I was thinking the same thing. You know, probably like, you know, a Black Sparrow or something like that.
Yeah, I like Black Sparrow.
Yeah.
I read John Yao in their editions.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Of course, Bukowski.
Yeah. All right. So, Gautama, that's your copy of the poem.
In my mind, though, you did.
Wow, thank you. What an honor.
Yeah,
This is, I will treasure this. Will you read? Oh, so you read it first and
I'm
then.
gonna read it like, you know, it's kind of like this is a house show.
Excellent. It is like.
And I read the poem and then you'll do some songs. Hopefully 2 or 3. And then that's it.
I didn't pay cover for this show.
Well, but didn't you bring wine?
One pizza.
That's.
How you feeling tonight, Madison?
Woo!
Yeah! I have a little poem called Hippie Johnny, inspired by a song I just heard, which was called what? What was
Free
it?
fridge deliveries.
Free fridge deliveries?
3 fridge deliveries.
3 fridge deliveries.
Yeah.
Okay.
Not a bad person.
This is inspired by 3 fridge deliveries. Okay, I'm gonna stand up. Hippie Johnny, donut symbols held far apart, aching for clapping. The hands have gone to bed, but the donuts remain, unwilling to be retired to a showcase for baked goods. All right, thanks. Thanks, Hippie Johnny. That was awesome.
Nobody's rooting for us anymore. Nobody's rooting, no one's writing reports on the butcher I love or the Catholic guns who he cuts for. I wonder what we all waiting for winter when we're gone with the wind. Wonder what we all waiting for winter when we're gone with the wind. I wondered as a kid, can we the only person who did? Mothers of footballers and delinquents, when they all come down, it's no coincidence that I write this. Asking what the object of the game is. Oh, why do we win by hanging in? Oh, asking what the object of the game is. Oh, why do we win by hanging in? What do we stand to Thanks everybody. Thanks Thax for the poem. Isn't it great that Thax?
Under the light of your patio, we smoked the last of it, waiting for no one to show up. On top of the unfinished beams of that loosely done lattice, comprising a fence between us. Under the light of the screen door you close, we dispose of the glass. You draw me in close, saying nothing you do can mean nothing to me. Nothing you do means just nothing to me. And in the morning you look out your window, brown stones and red stones and stones of all colors, wasting your thoughts on the end, your thoughts on the end. Oh, isn't it love? You feel when you make a gift of yourself. Isn't it love? You feel when you make a gift of yourself.
One more song.
One more.
Yes.
Good strategy.
One more song. Yes. That
Oh,
was
yeah.
so easy. They weren't even bullied. They just wanted to.
Well, there was
No,
a
this
really
is very-
there was a high percentage of the crowd.
Our interests are
Like what?
aligned. We want to
Yeah.
play another one too. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. I told my brother to stay away from you. You would corrupt him, turn his cold heart blue. Now I gotta talk to you. Oh, no one else in the whole wide world will do. I never do. Thinking better, but I'm not. I just have to. Oh, you know I do, yeah. Gotta live downtown. I gotta run around. You call me heartless. The word that is much more than words, and I am worthwhile. Oh, I will stay with you, darling. You are quite hard, whereas I never am. You think I'm big, but I'm not. I just have to Oh, you know I do, yeah. My first sip of hot chocolate, you burned my tongue, babe, and now I'm blue, and I gotta
Dictate, a cool book with lots of different kinds of parts, dictations and pictures and stuff.
Yeah, I'm reading. Oh, this is the guy you were telling me about, Paul Muldoon.
Paul Muldoon, yeah.
Yeah.
He does a thing at the end of each book where he writes a poem that doesn't rhyme with itself. It rhymes with the poem at the end of the previous book. And some people have called it a Muldoon, the form of Muldoon.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I think Michael Robbins did that.
Oh, wow.
I hope I'm not wrong about that, but you know, that general idea
Yeah.
is the gist. That's a Kinder Totenwald, good prose poems by Franz Wright. Pretty good prose poems. There's a really good one in there called Robert Cat, where he's talking about I think the line is like me and the prisoner making do or something like that. And I always think about that whenever anybody has a cat. This is a book I recently got. This is my Kenneth Koch section.
Oh, yeah.
I have a selected. I have a Co or a Season on Earth where he did the stanza from what's that called? Oh my gosh. Where it's this kind of stanza. Oh my gosh, it's gonna come to me later. But I recently got his book, The Mystery of Anna in 1951, which has my favorite Kenneth Koch poem.
Oh, really?
Which is called Boiling Water. And it's about how a serious moment for the water is when it boils.
Yeah, yeah.
And it talks about serious moments for for lots of other things too.
Yeah.
I've been keeping my library checkouts up here. So this is where I got like Ethan Cohen's poems. I have like Bukowski essays. I wanted to read Raymond Carver's poems. I wanted to read Natalia Ginsburg because I like Carlo Ginsburg, and I've heard really good things about Natalia Ginsburg. Her books are also on like New Directions. You know, they kind of have good looks and stuff.
Right.
And then these are kind of random things I got just because they seemed inspirational. But this Jean-Philippe Toussaint, I think he's a weird novelist. I'm excited to check him out. I like weird novels with formal conceits, you know?
Yeah, totally.
And
I think I remember. I haven't read anything by him. Oh yeah, and he's one of those people like I considered reading something by him at some point.
This is my attempt to start. Oh, Ethan Cohen, yeah, that's
funny.
He's got some baudy limericks in there, but also good other funny poems and accounts of dreams. Good accounts of dreams. Oh yeah, it's a Eugenia Montale
Stuff, yeah. Oh wow, you got a lot of the NYRB things.
So of these, my favorites are W.S. Graham, this one, Miguel Hernandez, and those are my favorites.
Jack Spicer is very important to me at one time.
Oh really? My language did this to me is his big. Language did this. What's the name of the book? Well, he did this book after Lorca. Are you familiar with that sequence of poems where he says that they're like translations or something? Like he says they're versions of poems that exist or something. Like he seems to be really comfortable with the notion of letting poems be from somebody other than him.
Yeah, totally.
Really comfortable with like using it as a thing, as a way that poems get written. This is a pretty one, Contemporary American Poetry.
Oh yeah, Don Hall.
I try to like keep this shelf just poetry.
Mac Jacobs is very important to me too.
That's so cool you say that, Thax. I love Max Jacob. I want to like show the one that I in the complete poems of Elizabeth Bishop. There's her translation of Max Jacob. So Max Jacob, Hell is Graduated. There's this really sick poem.
You read it? Yeah.
When I was employed at Cooperative Fashions, in spite of the dark, ugly old maid, I tried to steal some garters. I was pursued down the superb staircases, not for the theft, but for my laziness at work, and for my hatred of the innocent finery. Descend, you are pursued. The staircases are less beautiful in the offices than in the part open to the public. The staircases are less beautiful in the service quarters than in the offices. The staircases are still less beautiful in the cellar. But what can I say of the marsh where I arrived? What can I say of the laughter, of the animals that brushed by me, and of the whisperings of unseen creatures? Water gave place to fire, to fear, to unconsciousness. When I came to myself, I was in the hands of silent and nameless surgeons. I always love that one. Like going down all the staircases.
Yeah.
Descend, you are pursued. I like the way she translates that.
Yeah, he's real good. Elizabeth Bishop's important to me too.
What are some of your favorite Elizabeth Bishop things?
What is it about her I like? They just seem like we were talking about like real objects, you know.
Yeah.
They're just living. That's all I can say.
Yeah, that's.
They're alive.
So you read all the volumes of Story of the Stone, but I have 1, 2, 4, and 5.
Ooh. I think there's 6.
Yeah.
Yeah, I read them in a hardcover.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Was it this? I wonder what this translator is. David Hawkes.
Maybe. Yeah, I read that and Journey to the West. They're both really huge.
Yeah, they're probably really fun. Soseki, yeah.
Oh, wow.
I really liked Soseki's ghost stories when I encountered him. And so I've been kind of meaning to read a novel of his, and I'm going to be real with you. I haven't read To the Spring Equinox and Beyond. Yeah.
I borrow this from you?
Yeah, totally
thank
borrow
you.
it. Yeah.
I'm a big Suzuki fan, and this is one I haven't read yet. Yeah, I didn't get it because on Amazon it was like $20 or $30, so I decided not.
That's the thing is like that was on sale for $1 when I got it. I know.
See, yeah,
because it was at like St. Vinny's or something, and I
luck out and I just keep my eyes peeled, and over years it builds up.
Yeah, that's what you have to do. During the lockdowns, I got it on an Amazon Jag, and a lot of them, they cheat, because when I first went on Amazon, a lot of books were 99 cents.
Oh, really?
And then $3 for shipping.
Yeah.
So they were $4 each.
Wow.
But once they saw I started ordering a lot, suddenly there weren't any. But no, they were a penny. The books were a penny.
Oh, wow.
And $3.99 for shipping.
Wait, I seem to recall a similar thing with I wanted PS1 games. I wanted PlayStation 1 games.
Yeah.
And there were ones that were like that.
And so I got a bunch of books for a penny, but then after a while, suddenly there weren't any more books for a penny.
Yeah.
But I was hooked. So,
yeah.
But I almost never spent over $10 for a book. So when I move, I'll have my main thing I'm taking with me is about 150 of these books that I haven't read yet.
How did you make your selection? What was your selection process like?
Actually, I might ask you about this.
Yeah.
Would you like to be a temporary home for some books?
The thing is, I was thinking about using this space maybe. I feel like I am kind of bursting at the seams, but I could be a home for maybe a few.
No, I'm trying to think about what I want to do. Because I'm not taking anything with me when I move out.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the only thing I have are those books.
On my YouTube, I mentioned Don Quixote, and people in the comments said, I read Tobias Smollett's version.
Yeah.
And I thought Charles Jarvis's version that I read was great, but apparently people love Smollett. You love the Smollett.
Well, it's from the 18th century. He's a great comic novelist. And so
Humphrey Clinker.
Yeah.
Do you like Humphrey Clinker?
I haven't read it yet.
Oh, whoa.
So, but I'm sure,
I bet you'll like that.
Yeah. So that was... And what's his, the Satanic Verses guy?
Salman Rushdie.
Salman Rushdie. He mentioned that in an interview that's the one to read. I don't think it matters. I've known a few people that have read it in other translations. They
Amelia read it in John Rutherford.
Yeah.
I like the picture that they have on the cover
of
him kind of like looking out at this vast wasteland.
Yeah.
That book's interesting. I thought it was going to be a novel, but it turns out to be like a profile of an artist friend, which I think is kind of an interesting thing. Oh, at this house we love Melville. I finally found a white jacket.
That's really nice. Yeah, I like what I've read by him too.
I've mostly just read like letters, large portions of novels, and Taipei. I like Taipei a lot.
Oh,
Taipei was really good.
Is that his very first book?
That's his very first book.
Yeah, I read that and The Confidence Man. The Confidence Man is wild. It's like a Pynchon book.
Morley, who's here, that's one of his favorite novels ever, The Confidence Man.
It's completely surreal. I think he stopped writing because he didn't know where to go next.
Yeah.
It doesn't even feel like a 19th century book at all.
It was reprinted by New Directions and like presses who were like doing avant-garde stuff in the 1900s. Of course, they found a kindred spirit there. They're like, wow, this is kind of like one of our postmodern novels or something.
I guess, yeah, it's like the avant-gardists had rediscovered him. He was kind of forgotten for a long time.
One of the things he would do when he was starting out in the movies was he would find ways to get gags in that would fit their extremely tight production schedule and how they never had time for anything.
Yeah.
And so he would always try to insert gags while entering or exiting because he knew that you couldn't cut the entrance or the exit. So that if he were funny entering a room, they would have to leave it in there. So it was that kind of a way he would do funny stuff. Speaking of Gertrude Stein, we've got Gertrude Stein and William James. Yeah, because there's like Norman Mailer and Robert Lowell, James Baldwin and Norman Mailer.
It's that connectedness, like, you know, if you meet somebody and they've met somebody. Well, you know, the music world's like that. Everybody knows everybody else.
They just met somebody who's met them.
Including the famous ones. Everyone's closer than you think.
A book about movie making by Pirandello?
Yeah, it's just called Shoot, I think.
That sounds great.
Yeah.
My plan is to start with the late Mathieu Pascal, Pessoa. Where did you first see Pessoa?
It's been a while, so I've known about him almost since I started reading for him. But the book of Discompletely until pretty recently. So
The Book of Disquiet, I remember that Penguin did a big edition when I was in school. And then there was a big edition of the Book of Disquiet that came out that I think I might have somewhere.
there are a bunch of little things. I got a book, and unfortunately, it's in English, Portuguese, and French, but the Portuguese and French aren't translated, so I can only read a third of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know why they did that.
That's wow. Is it maybe it's trying to be some sort of nod to the heteronym kind of style that Pessoa adopted?
Well, they didn't give any warning when I bought the book. You know, it just I just assumed that. You know, an American publisher. Why would they?
If the back of the book copy is in English, I kind of assumed you would think that
exactly.
I was gonna read that language. I actually kind of don't know whether Pessoa's heteronyms wrote in different languages or not. Heteronyms. That's kind of reminds me of Jack Spicer, honestly.
Yeah.
He's kind of a heteronymic.
A little bit like
writer.
that. Yeah. I mean, it's definitely the whole anonymous thing. I'm like that a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Like people know who I am, but it's still kind of an anonymous experience.
For those who don't know, it's just a poem. It's just a song at the show.
Yeah. That would be the not so good part about getting too famous, you know.
Yeah, maybe that would interrupt the seamless kind
So
of.
at my age, someday I'll read Clarissa. I like long books. So
Yeah.
oh wow, cool.
Marlene Dietrich's ABC.
Oh, I've read this actually. Yeah, it's really cool.
That's a great one, and that one was. I found that one, and it was just lovely. I had no idea Marlene Dietrich had such a funny book. We definitely in this house we love kind of like reference books, like dictionaries and stuff like that. Ambrose Bierce, Devil's Dictionary, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So it's really a welcome addition.
News books for them.
I feel like many books are printed in Moni, Illinois. Yeah, this is a Taxi Night by Cliff Feynman. It's like he wrote it while he was a taxi driver.
Oh,
he basically made a discipline and was encouraged by friends to stick to it. He'd never written a book before after writing poems for a long time.
Yeah.
But basically made a book out of kind of editing together the poems that were basically presented in this taxi, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And there's real gems in there.
Yeah.
That's one for you to borrow for sure.
Really?
Taxi Night. If you've never read Taxi Night, it's a lovely book. It's so much funny stuff in there.
Yeah.
So much great stuff.
I'll borrow it from you later.
Yeah.
Because I'm afraid.
If you've got the Soseki and the Feynman or something.
I don't want to lose that one. If I lose this one, I'll buy you another copy. But I don't want to get your signed copy from a friend.
Wait, is that signed? I thought I got one that wasn't signed.
Well, yeah.